the science of Battlestar Galactica, Dr. Kevin Grazier. Rocket to fame as Captain Apollo on the original Battlestar Galactica, but on the reimagined series, his character moved from prisoner to vice president to mutineer. Tom Zarek himself, Richard Hatch. She's done numerous guest roles, and her series credits include Burn Notice and Dark Blue. But we fell for her Battlestar character despite the whole nearly wiping out humanity thing. Number 6, Trisha Halper. A veteran of stage and screen, our next guest received a Genie, the Canadian Oscar, for a supporting role in Solitaire. He played Slade Wilson on the 10th season of Smallville, as well as the Reeve in this year's updated Red Riding Hood. Colonel Saul Tigh, Michael Hogan. And last but not least, he played Gaff in Ridley Scott's Blade Runner. Lieutenant Castillo in Michael Mann's Miami Vice, and received an Oscar nomination for his role as Jaime Escalante in the 1989 film Stand and Deliver. Actor, director, activist, Admiral William Husker Adama himself, Edward James Olmos. For every one question I ask, you can ask at least 2 questions. There's mics on this side and that side. Bruce is on this side, Jen is on that side. Go ahead and start lining up behind them.
Creating, if you go online, you'll see a lot of the robots that are being created right now in Japan that are just extraordinary. There's a lot of work being done on that, and more than anything, it's a rejuvenation of things that are going to make us like Cylonish. Because what's happening is that I don't know if you ever have a chance, go to the SENS Foundation, S-E-N-S Foundation, their website, and you'll learn a little bit about where the future's going and how all of you should be prepared to live to be 1,000 years old. And we may not call them Cylons, but we will definitely be mechanical from the inside out. It's coming, so we're there.
That's what he says. Okay, question on this side.
Am I on? There you are. Hi, this question is for Trisha. I want to ask you about, in the episode Pegasus, when you are essentially viewing yourself as both the victim and the observer for what Gina was being subjected to, and how you emotionally prepared yourself for those scenes, and just a little bit about that. Thank you.
That was at a point in the series where I was very thankful to get another character, and wow, they certainly gave me one. Up until that point, it had been just number 6 in Baltar's head, and that gets a little limiting technically after a while. And in terms of preparing myself, I just did a lot of research on the internet about post-traumatic stress syndrome and a lot more about war and soldiers and things that have happened to them and how they deal with it when they came home. And then I watched a couple of intense scenes in movies, intense rape scenes. One was a French film with Monica Bellucci. I actually couldn't stomach the entire film and was actually very sick to my stomach after watching the scene. So that's sort of what was playing in my mind, and then when we shot it, everybody's so great on set about wanting you to be comfortable and wanting you to lay on a Fernie blanket or this or that or get up in between takes, and I didn't want to. I wanted to stay there, stuck to the floor, and be uncomfortable. And I actually had bruises the next day from the floor, the rivets on the floor, because I wanted to stay in that, stay uncomfortable. So there's just little tricks you do, and I thought if I was getting up and joking around in between setups, it would be a lot harder to get back into that. I think we actually shot head six first, before taking off the wig and getting all the bruises put on. And Patricia Murray, the makeup artist, actually said one thing funny to me in the makeup chair. She stopped for a minute as she was putting the bruises on me, and she stopped and she went, "Wow, it's like you're transforming right in my chair." She said my demeanor, I was starting to, instead of sitting upright, I was starting to sink and starting to not really talk in the trailer and that sort of thing. And it's just something that just sort of happens, and I was thankful for those episodes. It's a long answer, sorry.
You're smart.
And you're not.
What do you mean by that?
What do you mean by that?
No questions over there? I have one. Michael, what did you think when you saw that Saw Time was going to have a swing with six?
We were talking about that this
Look,
morning.
you're so nice.
He just got off a plane.
He says he just got off.
He said he just got off a plane. He's been standing backstage, waiting to make an entrance out there, and he kind of got from behind.
They just picked me up from the bar. They found me. It's a crazy story. I'll tell you another time. No, I was at the airport. The vehicle, my plane was a half hour late, so I was sitting in the airport for 40 minutes. I literally dropped my nights off and came right here.
That's it.
I just had a question, Tamo, from this very intelligent guy in my right here. He said, wondering what my reaction was when I read the script that I was going to have an affair with number 6.
She's right here in the room, man.
How can you research that? Next question.
So it's actually very odd to do a whole day of beating each other up and then making out wildly. Blood and beer and whatever. And we're both looking at each other going, is this really how it's supposed to be?
Edward James almost directed that episode, if I can believe. And I think, is he not the one who said, lean down, kiss him?
So how did you prepare for that scene?
I said, sure, do it.
It wasn't scripted. I gotta tell you that the impulsiveness of living and the understanding of what these guys were doing was unbelievable. And when the scene was going on, it was really a scene about Saul receiving everything that he thought he deserved, and 6 giving it to him. And so I said, this is I'll never forget it. I said, kiss him. Because she was on top. She was just wailing on him. And so she did. And from that moment, who knew that they were going to have a baby?
I don't think anybody did at that point in time. That's one thing about shooting the 5 years in total, I guess, we spent on Battlestar Galactica. That they, very early on, they started writing for the people and for the situation. So I don't think that was pre-planned. I think they probably saw it and, okay, I know what should happen here. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
This side.
This question is for Trisha as well. I was just wondering, at the beginning, how much did they tell you about who Head 6 really was, and also, as Caprica 6, who Head Baltar really was?
I knew nothing until the finale, and I'm not joking. I really didn't know. I stopped asking after a while. I may have heard me say this before, but Ron Moore always does a series Bible, you start, and every character has like a 2 or 3 page backstory filling in about what Ron thinks that character's life has been about. And number 6's was 1 sentence: the machine as woman. And I went up to him, I'm like, I'm the newest actor in the group, and this is what I get? And he goes, well, you're the only known Cylon at this point, and I haven't decided everything about the Cylon, so I can't give you a backstory yet. So I learned very early on that I just kind of say the words and try and equate it to something in my life to make it personal to me, and have some conviction. But I gave up trying to figure out if I was a chip or if I was an angel, if I was a demon, or if I was just a malfunction or what. And just tried to have fun playing it.
This side.
I was just curious, with the show being so dramatic and a lot of you having such a history, if the relationship you saw between the characters was more emotional for you in relation to your past history, or was just the way it gets?
Or it was just what was the last part? I think it was very emotional because we were like, we spent that long together and knew the characters and everybody so well that I think it definitely was emotional. Yeah. Not just the way it is.
Yeah, I think over the course of the show too, like when you're doing 5 years together, and you know, obviously some of us were working with other actors in the show a lot more. You know, Trisha and James's relationship, Eddie and Mary, Grace and I, you know, Starbuck and Apollo. Those relationships, I mean, you watch, if you're a true fan of the show, you watch those develop, and you know, in real life that was happening too. You become really close with the person you're working day in and day out with them, and actually spending more time with them than you are your family, even in some way. So definitely happens.
It's interesting spending that long together because you, the viewer, in this format, if I have a scene, run into Zarek in the hall, we don't have to talk about our backstory. You just know, you look at it and go, whoa, Chuck and Zarek are in the hall together. What's going to happen next? And if it was a one-off movie of the week, we'd have to spend this time together going, now, what do you think? And how do we indicate that to the audience that we wouldn't be comfortable together? We would have to do that work, but with Battlestar, after you were into the swing of it, there's no acting required. Just go.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That always happened. I mean, every time Lee and I were doing a scene together, we didn't do a lot. We got in the same room. We were always going at it. Douglas and I too. But as characters, you know what I mean? We're giving each other shit right away. As soon as we're in there, you can help it.
Is there another question over here?
Hi, love you guys. I was just wondering, if anything, what would you have done differently if, as a Cylon character, it turned out that if you were a Cylon, if you played a human instead, or if you played a human character, if it had turned out that you became the Cylon, what would you have thought about? What would you have changed?
Well, Hogan has this firsthand. I'm not quite sure if I understand, but since I knew I was a Cylon from the beginning, I just went with it. I mean, I didn't try and think of what I would be like as a human. The only thing is, I would try and pepper my performance for each clone or each number 6 with degrees of how much contact they had with humans. To me, informed how comfortable they were with them and how maybe more human they were than if they had no contact. So for me, that was kind of the only real human aspect that I brought into it was how much is human and how much of humans informed their personality.
I don't think I ever contemplated the idea, actually. I just, once we got into deep in the second season, I didn't think that was a possibility, so I didn't really give it too much thought. It's a good question.
I certainly thought about it in the launch too, on the way out in the universe. a little late. But you know, it is interesting, the whole Cylon thing, because I think on some level, maybe after the initial shock of some of the characters finding out they were Cylons, as I think some of us hoped we were Cylons, you know, we would have a second chance at life. And but you know, the metaphor also, Battlestar operates on so many different levels. And you know, I hate to say it, there's a Cylon in all of us. You know, we all deal with self-destructive programs and you know all kinds of things that are kind of operating inside of us. And we're always struggling with that. I thought the brilliance of Ron Moore was really creating this dichotomy, this relationship between the human side and the Cylon side. And that when you found out you were a Cylon, you didn't all of a sudden become a Cylon. You were really struggling doing this program you had in the human part, which is something I think we can all identify with. So I really like what they did with that. And I really loved this.
I thought it was fun. Me too.
Come back and blow him out the airlock.
There is a Cylon in all of us.
Who are you supposed to?
I said there is a Cylon in all of us, and it's his fault.
Look at her. Look at her. Come on.
Kevin, what is the coolest thing you write about in the science of Battlestar Galactica?
Oh, the coolest thing. Got a chapter in there, which I actually think you'll be reading of tomorrow, on silent biology, because there's a lot of complaints early on about silent biology, how it's contradictory, it doesn't add up, this doesn't make sense. And I claim that it did. You would have to make a very small change to a human form, and you get a silent. And it's a trivially small change. You look at the software. And my co-author had started a chapter on silent biology, which he said that. He said, it just doesn't make any sense. And I said, oh, sure it does. We had this email exchange that started getting kind of heated. And he was saying, this doesn't make sense, this doesn't, and I said, yes, it does, yes, it does, yes, it does. And he also knows that, in the past, I have been on the web and seen some of the complaints about the show. And I always, so my co-author did something really brilliant. He took our email exchange on silent biology, and I did eventually convince him, by the way, that you don't have to change a human a whole lot to get a silent. And what he did was really brilliant, is he took our email exchange, he edited a little bit, and the chapter in the book on silent biology is a hypothetical conversation between a real scientist and a smart-ass fanboy on silent biology.
You know, we talked about the first question that I was asked about, are there Cylons? Are they in the future? Are they here? What is? If you start to look at what it means to be in singularity, if you've read any of Kurt Weill's stuff, Singularity is Near, where you see me, I'm sitting up here with all kinds of technical equipment, iPad, phones and stuff. And whenever I need to learn something or do something, or somebody asks me a question, I'll revert to this immediately. Well, the Cylon and the change of the Cylon comes through the technology and man coming together. Humankind, and who's creating that? Humankind is, okay? Have we gotten to that level? Of course we have. You can put a contact lens in right now that's connected to a programming device, whether it be a telephone or some kind of a computer, small computer, that will project in front of you that only you see a screen. And that screen has exactly what the screen is here. So I can turn around and recite the entire Declaration of Independence from word 1. You know, I'll turn to page 13 and say, and on page 13, da da da. And then people are going to say, my God, what a mind. And the singularity is very close. The nanochips that we're making right now in China and Japan and being developed even here are extraordinary. And you know, right now, we all know that they know exactly where you are. Every single person has a phone. You're a monitor. You know very well that they can be listening to this when it's off. If you do not take the battery out of this, they can use it as a receiver. And who is they? Well, the government. The government of the United States of America has a tremendous fear. And so they're monitoring an extraordinary amount of people. Say one word, and you're monitored. You hit the right word, you go online, you'll be tagged. And then they'll be listening to you always just for the protection of the country as a whole. So all I'm saying is that we are there, guys. And then if you go online and just go to Nova, the program on PBS, and put Can We Live Forever? Nova. Okay? And you will see a 1-hour program that tells you exactly how far we are in creating robots. But not robots the way you think of a robot. An advanced portion in which I can get a new heart that's mine, that they make for me, new lungs, I can have new livers, and in essence, they've already told us that we will be living for 1,000 years. And the question that you're going to have to answer is, how long do you want to live? That's going to be the question. And many of you are going to be like shocked because the results, the responses to that question are so diverse, you won't believe it. And people who have gotten into it, like the Sense Foundation, some people can't even take it because then religion gets involved. And they just can't take it because religion tells you we're born to die. And all of a sudden, humankind saying, we don't have to die for at least 1,000 years. We can keep it going. And all of a sudden, everybody starts backing away from that kind of talk. But I got to tell you, we're in it now. We are creating human beings, clones. If you don't think they're not creating clones right now, you're really not thinking. Because as soon as we found out how to clone, somebody somewhere is doing it. And they're doing it very well. And we'll find out after there are maybe 30 or 50,000 clones walking around, everybody's going to say, shit, there are clones out here. I saw myself. I see a thumbprint and everything. So we're there.
Consistent with what I was talking about earlier, in that conversation I had with my co-author, I identified 2 points, which were the biggest technical sticking points, and then doing research I found that both had been solved years ago. So yeah, we amazing things that people are doing with melding machinery and humans.
Well, every one of you probably knows that if you go to any bar here in Atlanta, you're going to run into Aaron Douglas, right?
And any con around the world, for that matter. This side. Speaking of which, where is our version of it?
Hey guys. I imagine you guys see the episodes, at least 1 or 2 finished ones. I was wondering if you guys, from a story standpoint, had a favorite character as you watch the show, excluding your own, because we don't know about ourselves, but excluding your own, which character do you like the most?
I like number 6.
I like number 8.
I mean, you had to love the Admiral. Yeah, you loved everybody. I was such a fan of every single character on the show. Such a diverse range of characters and such an amazing, talented group of actors. James Callis, eat him up like all day. I couldn't get enough. He killed me. He's brilliant. Trisha's, she broke my heart. I watch the show all the time. I'd be crying watching her. Edward James Olmos, incredible actor, amazing. The lead of the show, Mary McDonald, same thing. Everyone just went on. Katie was just, I love sharing scenes with her. Katie was incredible. Everyone, man, everyone. Grace Park.
Yeah, it's hard to choose.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you some love back.